Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 10 of Surrey Tennis Talks. Hopefully, you all enjoyed our special episode last week with Joe Salisbury. I'm joined, as always, with my co-host, Justin. Justin, how are you doing?
Hey, guys. Yeah, very good. Thank you. Happy to be able to get back to coaching on Wednesday out of
Yeah,
the second lockdown. So looking forward to it, Lewis. Yeah.
good, fantastic. So, obviously, as we come out of our second lockdown, I think we're going to want to get an update on counter training, what it means for counter training. So, do you want to enlighten us on, what it means for counter training?
Yeah, very pleased to announce that spoken to all our venues and coaches that we use for county training, and we are back. So as tennis opens up on Wednesday across the country, we will also be running county training next Saturday and Sunday. That's the 5th and 6th of December for the sessions that are due to be running there and players that are booked into. And then we'll be concluding our season on the 12th and 13th of December, i.e. the following weekend. And that will be the end of the season. But the good news is that we will be able to get each age group's last session in before we finish for Christmas. So that's always great. That's always really, really good. And then because we go into a new year from January, I'll be having various meetings the next couple of weeks to work out which players are going to be involved from January. And as I say, because we've got this new age group, it goes on the year now, and we don't have the extra season, so we do need to start all over again. So all the players will be aware that they go into new age groups. So we'll be putting our sessions together based on that. And also, players don't have to worry too much if you're a little bit concerned that you haven't been able to compete very much. We'll be taking a lot of these things into account when we put the new county training program together for 2021. But let's just hope for a better year.
I think everyone would agree with you on that. Let's just hope for a year with less disruption, and because counter training is so enjoyed by so many players, and to have people not playing in them it's such a shame. So yeah, we'll keep our fingers crossed. Right, well, obviously, Justin, last time we spoke, you were very much in the O2 bubble, and coaching Joe as he battled his way to the semi-finals. So it didn't end quite how we wanted it to end. So what is your initial thoughts after the event? What are you thinking? How do you look back on it? How do you reflect?
Well, look, it was a fantastic event. The singles was amazing. So many good players. All the matches were very competitive. A lot on the line. The doubles, if you're into your doubles, then I really would suggest that you get into your doubles, because it's so exciting. It's so much fun, and no more exciting than the matches that I was part of with Joe and Rajiv. 3-match tie breaks. Okay, a very, very tough loss to the eventual winners. But what I'm going to talk about a little bit today is that when you get the opportunity, like I have more than one occasion, but you're just reminded of it over the last couple of weeks at the O2, was that the players that we might see the season as a sort of culmination, this big match, this big operation, everyone's so up for it, and really you just don't feel that. You just don't feel that. I mean, we're dealing with professionals that have been on the circuit for a few years, and they're not really turning up. They're not turning up like we might think they would be, like a 5-year-old turning up at Disneyland for the first time. They're not turning up like that. It's another event. It's another tournament. It's part of this process that we talk about as coaches, and hopefully we're aware of as tennis parents, of the sort of we train, we compete, and then what do? We learn. We should be learning, and then back into training, adapting, adjusting, progressing, and back into competing again, back into the learning, and we sort of keep this cycle going. And you really do feel that when you're amongst the professionals, you do really feel as if it's just part of their daily process. And that's why it's quite nice when they have an off season, that they just get to switch off and they can just be random. Because when they're in their zone and they're as part of being a professional athlete is that you have to be so committed and so dedicated day in, day out to that process.
Mm.
And you're very mindful of it as a coach when you're around the player. I mean, Joe and Rajiv's team, we were all very conscious of keeping the players in that kind of mindset. We certainly don't jump around and go, "Oh, guys, great. We got a match tomorrow to be number one year end. Oh, this is great. Go out and do your best. Come on. I mean, got to win it. You got to win this match. You're going to be number one." I mean, they'll just look at you and say, "Get out of my bubble," because you kind of burst my bubble. Like, get out. It's just not, it doesn't happen. And what I'm going to try and get across today is that if we can start to have a little bit of that mentality, more of that mentality at junior level,
Mm.
although we're not dealing with professional coaches, and a lot of the time it's parents just trying to find their way, and
Mm.
players that don't have the, you know, 10, 15 years experience of being on the tour or what have you. So they just see every match as a Grand Slam final. Every match for them is do or die. And I certainly remember that as a junior. And I don't know how you feel, Lewis, as sort of an amateur club player. When you go out and play a big match, I mean, your heart rate goes up beforehand. You're sort of up for it. You're geared up for it. You're representing your club or representing yourself in a competition. I mean, how does it feel for you? Does it feel like if you lose, you're bad, and if you win, you're good? And is it that?
Yeah.
What does it feel like?
Well, it is. It is. You're right. And, you get tight on break points, you get tight on set points, because at your non-professional level, you could potentially only have X amount of matches per year, per season, so more rides on it, and if I know I'm not playing another match for a month, 2 months, it then adds that much pressure to it. So you're right. Each match feels, huge, and the pressures on it become even bigger. Yeah, definitely.
And I think if you imagine that, when you're a junior, it's very difficult to process things the way that we're able to as adults. So every time you go out there, we're so used to going, when we go to school, we hand in all our homework and we get graded on it. We do a piece of work, we get graded on it. We come home, we're getting graded at home.
Mm.
How hard is he working? And everything's like this massive grading system.
Mm.
And so you turn up to play a match and there's a rating system, and your mum or dad might be aware that you need one more match to go up a rating, and this match, or maybe you beat them last time and you lost to them last time. There's this intensity that gets created, and you can learn an awful lot from the professional side because it's a lot more relaxed.
Mm.
I know we're already dealing with these guys have already, if you like, accomplished a lot. They probably don't need to, need to lift a finger ever again. They've got enough money in the bank.
Mm.
But these are the craziest, most hungry athletes on the planet. So if they can handle it, then we can certainly learn from those lessons and sort of drop those lessons, if you like, in packages back down to our juniors
Mm.
and back down to our recreational players. And this idea of training. So we're practicing. We all go out and practice. We all do our sessions, do our squads, do our county training, have our lessons. And then if you are a tennis player, you then go out and you play a match. Now, if at the end of it, the only thing you can do is say, "Oh, I won the match," or "I lost the match," it's only half the story.
Mm.
And you leave an awful lot of what you could become. You just leave out there somewhere, because unless you actually go into a match and you have a goal and you have some gains that you're trying to achieve, then you are literally basing your self-esteem in the tennis world on whether you win or lose.
Mm.
Whereas what I'm advocating, what I'm putting out there, is that you never ever need to lose again.
Mm.
If you take my sort of mindset, if you take my way of thinking along, you win the match, great, and you sit down and you work out why you won it,
Mm.
because you wouldn't want to sit down and learn that you go, "Goodness me, I've got no idea how I won that match. So how am I ever going to win in the
Yeah.
future if I don't know how I won it?" Or you lose. No, we don't want to do that. Or you learn. So that's what I'm advocating right now, and saying that's what I see. That's what I see. I don't see players at the top level, and I don't see players that are starting to get this mindset, getting too devastated for too long. Yes, there was a little bit of upset, especially with our guys, Joe and Rajiv, 7-1 up in a match tie break. You're thinking they're through. Again, that's another lesson to learn, is that
Mm.
you're never through until you're through.
Yeah.
And I was chatting to a great buddy of mine, David Lovejoy, the other day, and we were chatting about how many sports are there where you can't run the clock out.
Mm,
Tennis is one of those sports where you need to win that last point. You do need to win it. But the idea is that you learn from each of these experiences. So let's take Joe and Rajiv. They lose the match, 7-1 up, blah, 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 lose the match. And it's devastating and it hurts because you care so much and you put everything on the line. But
mm,
very quickly, in certainly in our camp, a few hours later, you're analyzing. You're
mm,
analyzing simply what happened,
mm.
not what went wrong, just what happened. What are the facts? These are the facts that we need to deal with. And then how can you apply those facts to what the game plan was?
Mm.
Was there anything that we didn't focus on, that we didn't expect, we didn't anticipate from the opponents? Was there something that we didn't fully execute on our side of the net that we had, if you like, agreed to doing beforehand? And so then it all of a sudden it becomes more of a sort of clinical process as
So what you're
opposed to
saying
an
is you sort of,
emotional process.
yeah, so exactly. So it sounds like you're very much sort of detaching the emotional side of it and just being really pragmatic with, okay, this happened. How
Yeah,
did we make it not happen?
that's exactly it. And what I would say is you can't really do that unless you have had a plan in the first place.
Yeah.
So if you just rock up, most of our players will just rock up, and you'll probably just rock up to your club match, and you'll go, whoa, and someone will say good luck, and you'll go, yeah, fingers crossed, I play well today. And it's a bit like that. It's I hope today's a good day.
Yeah.
Or you hear players saying, it just wasn't my day today. Well, hold on a second. That's just a ridiculous statement.
Mm,
But it makes sense in the context. If you haven't set up what your goal was, if you haven't set up what your aims were, then maybe you are living on luck. Maybe
mm,
you are trying to ride your luck for the day, ride your
mm.
luck for the match. But much better to just simply have goals and targets. They don't have to be crazy. I mean, at the highest level, we would have sat down before all the matches and the guys would have had game plans. We know how the opponents are going to play the big points. Um, we know what kind of serves they're going to hit, what kind of plays that we need to use to give ourselves the best chance.
Mm.
So then already you're having a sort of very focused outlook and a very it is a pragmatic approach. It's a bit like I think it's a bit like going to the doctors really and saying, "Look, I've got a really bad leg. My leg's swollen," and your doctor just going, "Whoa, man, it's unbelievable swelling. I've never seen a leg swollen so much." I mean, that's a crazy emotional response, saying it's not really going to get us anywhere. And the
Yeah.
doctor going, "Well, come back and see. That's just wow. I've never seen anything quite so swollen." You go home and you go, "Yeah, he agreed it was swollen, but we didn't fix it." Uh, and it doesn't really make any sense. Of course, what we get, and I like this example quite a lot, is we get a very calm approach. We get, okay, nothing to worry about. I've seen it before. It's because the doctor has experience, and he'll prescribe. Hopefully some antibiotics. Take those twice a day for the rest of the week, and then you know where you stand, and you come home and you say, well, I've still got a swollen leg, but I have a plan now,
Mm,
and I have confidence that it's going to get better.
mm,
So if we take that from our tennis match, okay, I lost the match, but let's now have a little look at what my aims were beforehand. My aims were to get 60% of my first serves in, and oh, thanks, Dad, you charted it. Oh, great, because that's good use of Dad's time.
mm.
Otherwise, he sits there going, "Oh no, he won the point. Oh, what's he doing? He never does that normally. Wow, he never does that normally." As he chats to another parent, and it's
Yeah.
all very emotional. Or you
Yeah.
sit there pacing up and down, going, "Come on, come on, come on, come on, let's do this."
Mm,
And even if you win, you see, you're going to go through the same thing again next time unless you change your approach.
mm,
So if you say to Dad, "Look, Dad, I'm looking for a 65% first serve percentage today. Can you chart it?" What do you mean chart it? Just mark down every time I get a first one, then every time I get a second one, and then I'll have the total, then I can work out what my best. It gives the player something to focus on. It
mm,
gives the parent something to focus on, and it keeps everything very clinical.
mm.
Because I don't know about you, Lewis, but I don't want my doctor ranting and raving and going crazy when I come in. I just wanted to say, yep, yep. I think we can look at that. Even if they don't know exactly what the deal is, just try this. here's the prescription, try that, and off you go. And hopefully we all feel more confident and we feel better about ourselves. And we look forward, not to the next leg swelling, but we look forward to the next competition, because we think, I lost the last one, but I learned and I can't wait to put in my new adapted learnings, my new aims. So I didn't quite make 65% of my first serve. Why? Well, my dad said I was going in the net, so I just need a bit more height. I need to be aware of creating a bit more height with my action, get my toss a little higher and go up to it. And now, so these are the things that I see the top players doing, and this is the processes that I think really stop us getting too wrapped up in the winning or the losing. Because if you want to have a long career, there's going to be so many ups and downs that you don't want mountains and avalanches. We don't want this, everything crashes down. You know, we can have a couple little pebbles fall down and then we go, right, stop. Before things get really bad, let's block it up. Let's create. But we don't want these massive boulders coming down every time we lose, because they just get bigger and bigger. And then we all lose confidence about going out and playing matches, because we just have to keep our fingers crossed all the time, because we just don't know what the winning recipe is. We just don't know how to survive.
And like we were talking about earlier, being a sort of continual cycle, you know, that sort of leads into what you were saying there. It's that you're always looking forward. There's always something to come up, you know, coming next, and there's always something you can then learn and implement next. And I think that's so true, you know, especially to our young players who can be playing here, there, and everywhere. You know, it's a case of looking to that next one and learning.
Well, it's really important with the young players, because if they love playing, they're going to play a lot.
Yeah.
They're going to play a lot. They could play up to 100, 150 matches per year, all these round robins, you know, but that's what they're there for. They are there for learning, and they are there for implementing. No champions. I say to a player sometimes, you know, really good sort of national standard 14-year-old player, I say, have you got the serve yet? Say, no, not quite, but I think it's coming. And I say, oh, that's a relief. When are you turning professional? Is it next week? Have we got enough time? And they go, no, what are you talking about? I say, oh, that's another relief. So we've got time, because you're not turning pro next week. But you're still happy to work on your game. Yeah, it's no problem. You have to actually remind players sometimes that they're not turning pro on the Monday after they've lost a match on Sunday. So it's okay to keep learning and to keep improving. You know, time is not going to run out for these guys as long as they stay on this cycle, as long as they stay in this approach. Because I don't know about, but one of the big reasons that I didn't become a tennis player, I think, because I was enthusiastic enough, was that I didn't handle winning or losing very well. I didn't handle the highs of winning. Were I was suddenly the greatest player. Oh my God, this is great. You know, I would talk about it and feel like I was amazing. But then you're setting yourself up for such a fall when you lose. And when you lose, you crash and burn. And the emotions of winning and losing, and the labels that we attach to winning or losing, are so devastating.
Do you think, you know, because that's a really interesting thought, and something I've thought for a while is, do you think the comparisons between players, you know, let's say you've got X amount of players all in the same age, let's say they're friends, and let's say their parents are friends, do you think the fear of losing is made worse because they don't want to lose in front of their friends, or they don't want to seem worse than them? Whereas actually, instead of just being able to focus on in their own world, they may be worried what other people think of them. Do you think that plays a part?
100%, 100%, and it happens with parents as well. Parents, unfortunately, I mean, we don't mean to, but parents will, you know, compare their kids to other kids, and we sort of treat our kids a little bit as trophies sometimes, and it affects our own self-esteem as tennis parents and as parents when our kids don't do well. But again, that's an emotional response, and it's probably a response that we all know as parents that we don't want to have. So this is why I'm offering a much better solution. Have a plan, have something you want out of each match that is in the player's control. You know, winning a match is not in a player's control. So having something like trying to hit more forehands, if you're trying to use your forehand more than your backhand, then your mum or dad can chart every time you hit a forehand, every time you hit a backhand. And then when it comes out that you've hit sort of 3 forehands to every backhand, then you think, well, I'm using my forehand 3 times as often as my backhand. That's something that I've seen Medvedev do. It's something I've seen Thiem do. I've seen Rafa use his forehand more than his backhand. It's something I'm working towards. And then if you lose the match, it doesn't seem quite as devastating because you've still got your performance goals that you're really dedicated to, that show whether you're improving or not. And that's really, because you can be improving. You know, you don't have to win to be winning. All right. And that's what I'm trying to put behind that. You don't have to win to be winning, and you don't have to win to be a winner. So as we move into the next year, you know, we hopefully talk to Joe soon. He's having a couple of weeks off, but he'll look back on the year and go, I won my first Grand Slam and I finished the year at number 2 in the world with my partner. It's a very good year. If we start 2020, 1st of January, and say, here's what I'm going to offer you, your first Grand Slam and to finish the year number 2, would you take it? Come back, Joe. He'd have snapped your arm off and taken it. He'd have taken probably one of those 2 things. So sometimes, they just have to calm down, keep things in perspective. Has his game improved? I know it has. How we put things in place to make his game improve? 100%. So Joe's very, very confident that in all the areas of gameplay, his game has improved, and we have evidence to show that it's improved. So even if he hadn't had a fantastic year on the court, he could say, well, I'm very close to getting that breakthrough and putting my game on the court and winning some matches because I'm making these gains. You know, I just need to then put them into that fast. And who knows when that's going to come. Look, Joe, I don't know how many Grand Slams Joe has played, but it's definitely under 10. And he's won one already. You know, Rajiv Ram had to play 58 Grand Slams before he won one, before it suddenly clicked. But what he wasn't doing, he wasn't giving up. And it's real testament to his mentality and his resilience to just keep going. And you imagine all that time, 58 Grand Slams and all those other tournaments in between, you're having to do the same process before every match, the same goals, the same aims, the same sit down, the same chat, the same warm up, the same processes, dealing with the winning and losing. I mean, it's brutal, isn't it? It's absolutely brutal for all those years. So in the end, players just have to learn to get on this cycle and just go with it. Ups and downs, but just control what you can, control the controllables, look after the things that you can look after, and keep setting yourself new little targets, keep going after them. I mean, you want to improve your backhand, and you asked the coach a little while ago if they could help you improve your backhand. And I haven't got around to it yet, Lewis, because of lockdown.
I haven't won my first Grand Slam, Justin. What are you
But
playing?
we will. We're going to get to it. We're going to get to that backhand, huh?
Exactly. And, you know, and I think it's so true what you're saying, and especially with that insight from the professional perspective. Although they will, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, they will have their year goals. They're probably looking at their career goals. You know, they think, I want to win X amount of Grand Slams before I retire, you know, and because that's a really long gap. And as you say, the same could just be applied to the juniors, you know, between now and when I turn 18 or whatever, I want to be doing this, this, and this. So I guess the longer you perhaps give yourself to achieve something, you know, the less the pressure gets, and the more time you have to get there, you know, without, you know, being too caught up in, you know, how inverted commas good you are, you know.
Well, that's it. I mean, if you want to say, look, by the time I want to get a university scholarship to the United States, let's say, that could be a long-term goal for a 10 or 11-year-old. You could say, look, I want to be able to give myself a good chance of playing full-time tennis. So going to uni is a really good way of doing it. I can get my degree and I can play a lot of tennis. And there's a lot of players coming out of the university system that then go onto the tour. So a very sensible thing to do. That's a long-term goal at sort of 18. And then you sort of have a midterm goal. So say, you know, 14, 15, my game needs to be in great shape. To be able to work between 14 and 18 at getting your ranking high enough, ratings high enough to a position where you may better, get a scholarship or get offered a scholarship, then your game needs to be in great place by 14. And then you look, well, I'm 10 now. I've got between 10 and 14 to put my game in great place. And then suddenly it starts to make sense. So actually the priority between 10 and 14 is to put my game in a really good place. Right, what does that mean? Let's have a look at my forehand. Let's have a look at my backhand. Let's have a look at when I'm attacking, when I'm defending, when I'm serving. Oh, and then you bring it into the present day. And then you rock up with your coach and you say, okay, coach, I'm 11. I want to have my game in place by the time I'm 14. Most things in place. So you're going to be improving all the time, but no big gaps in your game by the time I'm 14. And I've had a look at things as they stand today. And I think my serve is my strongest shot and my backhand is probably my weakest shot. So can we start working more on my backhand? Or I feel much better when I'm at the back of the court, not so confident when I'm at the front of the court. I know that by 14, I'm going to need to better play the front of the court as well. If I'm then going to try and work between 14 and 18 to getting good results, so then it's that, oh, okay, that makes sense. And it makes mum and dad think, oh, okay, so when we're playing all these matches at the weekend now, what does that mean? What's our priority? And you say, that's a good question, mum. That's a good question. And she might say, well, is the priority then to use that time as practice to get the backhand right and to keep that serve developing into a weapon and to keep him happy so that by the time he gets to 14, his game's got better and he's not pulling his hair out and saying, I don't want to play anymore. This game's killing me. Yeah, that's the priority, mum. You got it. Yeah. Okay, I got it. So this weekend is all about practice and enjoyment. You got it.
Win or learn.
Win or learn. And don't crash and burn.
No. There we go. Right. Well, we've neared the end of the episode. I think that was extremely interesting. And I hope everyone who's watched that has really picked out some nuggets of information there. Win or learn, as Justin said. So we'll see you next week for the episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. And just before we go, Justin, was there anything else you wanted to add in there?
No, just enjoy your first week back out onto the courts, and please, take it out there with you in your first session. Have a goal for each session, have something in mind that you want to achieve, even if it's look, Justin, I just want to get out on Wednesday and smash some balls around, have a great time. You make sure you do that. Make sure you do that. And if you want to send in any questions, or I've opened up a little can of worms in your brain, mum, dad, coach, player, just send in your questions, and I'm more than happy to answer anything, or we can explore these areas further.
Exactly. Perfect. And the Ask Justin details will be in the comment below. So we want to hear from you. So we'll see you next week, Justin. We'll see you next week, everyone. And as Justin said, I hope everyone enjoys the return to tennis. Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Bye.